Now let's focus on investing in real estate in emerging markets. My next guest started her company 5 years ago with a focus on buying distressed property assets in challenging markets. While investing across the African continent, the company has expanded by 12% a year and now claims to be the fastest growing property group in the region. Well, we're delighted to be joined by Johannesburg by Bronwyn Knight, the Chief Executive of Grit. So thank you so much for joining us. When you look at the next steps to actually boost your company and to make it bigger, where do you see value? Where, in terms of countries, but also types of properties, do you look to?
So what's important to note is our investment strategy. So half of our real estate portfolio is exposed into investment grade Africa, which is Morocco, Mauritius and Botswana, and the intention is to expand across these regions. And the next part of our portfolio is exposed to growth Africa. And growth Africa, where we've seen the growth coming from, are countries like Senegal, Ghana, some of the East African countries being predominantly Kenya, Uganda, and then what we classify as Indian Ocean, which is really driven around our hospitality platform and dealing with very good owner-operated hospitality groups. So that is where we see the next trajectory of growth coming for Grit.
So how big do you want to be in 3-4 years?
So the asset value of the business today is $800 million. We have announced to the market that we have secured an identified pipeline for approximately $600 million. So effectively, if we are successful in the closure of that, we'll effectively double our market cap. So today the market cap of the business is 420, and effectively we'll take that to close on just over $800 million. The ability to take this to a $3 billion fund over the next 3 years, because of our multi-geography, multi-asset class strategy. So we are following multi-global tenants across Africa, and because of the trajectory of us being now in 8 countries and looking at their real estate solutions, so we are now involved in corporate accommodation, offices, retail, light industrial. The ability to grow absolutely exists, but we need to just make sure that we are obviously controlling the real estate cycle, which is really, really important from a growth perspective.
How much do you worry about some of the emerging markets in which you're invested in, or some of even the frontier markets actually being hit by either conflict or trade? We saw even, the politics can move pretty quickly, like in a country like Argentina, and then you have also the US president that does policy by tweets.
Yeah, so it's exactly that. So I think the investment strategy to be multi-geography was quite key. So we don't want to be more than 25% in the long term invested into one geography. So again, is also investing into countries that are driven by different economic drivers. So if you look at Morocco's economic driver versus Ghana. So, the multi-geography for us, I think, sort of solidifies the portfolio and mitigates a lot of the risk of one of the countries dipping. I think the reality is these are emerging markets, so they do go in cycles. But, the exposure to sort of northwest, east and SADC is that not all of these markets will be driven by the same cycles. And what we're seeing is that the trajectory of growth and the platform in Africa across these sectors and across sort of the real estate is that they are quite, quite sticky real estate solutions that we're doing for global tenants. And we've seen that in Mozambique, so we've owned our portfolio there for 5 years, literally through macro hell. But we've seen the quality of our tenant base being Anadarko, Barclays, Vale. These guys have been quite sticky to the macros and have continued to operate in these markets, and we basically are their real estate partners. So again, right. These are further mitigants to what we all know are emerging markets.
Who are your biggest competitors in some of these markets?
So, as I've mentioned, and as has been mentioned, is that Grit is really unique. So we are the only multi-listed Africa real estate business. So yes, we do see competitors that operate in specific markets, but nothing on the scale of what we're doing, and also on the basis that we are actually tenant-led. So we will have a tenant like Halliburton, like the American Embassy, approach us, and then we will sort of construct their real estate solution for them. So from that perspective, the fact that we are actually not competing with other real estate owners or property owners, and that we're actually tenant-led, we're not seeing too much competition. Also the multi-geography, as I've mentioned, there is no other real estate business that exists in Africa today that sits across 8 regions like we are, and also multi-asset class.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, Bronwyn Knight, there, the Chief Executive of property company Grit.